Welcome to another episode of Edible RX, the podcast that teaches you to use food as medicine. I'm Laura Rodriguez, holistic chef, autoimmune warrior, and backyard farmer, and today's episode is going to teach you the basics of doing flare-free math. But before we get into that, I do want to say happy Labor Day weekend. I hope you're all at home enjoying yourselves and not at work. But if you are at work, I hope your shift goes by quickly. Another announcement I want to do before we get into Flare-Free Math is Member of the Month for the month of September for the Flare-Free Cooking Academy. This member has come into the Flare-Free Cooking Academy with like guns a-blazing, just with a fiery, go-get-it attitude, wanted to heal from day one, has done everything, has literally gone above and beyond everything that I ask of my members to do, including bringing her own dairy-free cheese to a restaurant. She was just I can tell she was so serious about healing. Now, I don't know too much of her backstory because she's a beginner member, so we don't have those one-on-one monthly consultations together, so I don't necessarily know what exactly brought her to join the Flare-Free Cooking Academy, but I do know whatever it was, she is serious about healing. And so congratulations, Abby Rice. I'm so proud of you. You are a true inspiration to other members in the group. Your persistence and your dedication to really trying to make this work in such a short amount of time is outstanding. So congratulations on being member of the month. Cheers, Abby. All right. So what is flare-free math and when do you do it? Flare-free math is the mental math that you do in your head to figure out how many of my trigger foods can I indulge in one setting or in one day without ending up in a flare? What's a flare? An autoimmune flare-up is when you have an intense, sudden onset symptoms of your immune system attacking itself. And those symptoms will vary based on your condition. So if you're like me and have rheumatoid arthritis, you may feel sudden, intense pain, stiffness, and heat in your joints. You may also feel extremely fatigued, or you may even come down with a fever. Joint pain and fatigue is quite common for most autoimmune warriors, but if you're a lupus warrior, you may even have a rash on top of that. If you're a Hashimoto's warrior, you may suffer from sudden, unexpected constipation or like extreme cold in your hands and feet. Now, you may have one of these symptoms or all of them, and your symptoms can vary in duration and intensity based on how many trigger factors you've come into contact with. And it may be something that comes on pretty quickly, or it may take 24 to 48 hours for it to even kick in. So this will all vary from warrior to warrior. All right, guys, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not a doctor or a nurse. This is not medical advice or anything. I'm just speaking from my experience and the experience of my members. And, please feel free to do your own research. Ask your practitioner if you need further help understanding anything that I just said. All right, so how do you know when to start doing flare-free math? For most people, you won't be able to indulge in any of your trigger foods without flaring until you tamper down your inflammation, improve your gut microbiome, and have your autoimmune symptoms under control. That may take 3 months, that may take 6 months of eating flare-free and really trying to take control of your autoimmune condition. Most of my clients report feeling better in a matter of weeks, but ideally you want to try and eat flare-free for those first 3 to 6 months before you start reintroducing your trigger foods so that you can really identify what it is that you react to. If you have chronic systemic inflammation that's gone unmanaged for years, having a little bit of gluten here and there, having a beer here and there is really going to stand in the way of your healing. According to functional nurse practitioner Danny Williamson from our Instagram Live, 1 bite of gluten sets the inflammatory response back in your body for 6 months. So ideally, you need at least 6 months of being gluten-free at the bare minimum to get your inflammation under control. If you're able to take gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, and soy out of your diet all at once, you really should be able to tamper down that inflammation, improve your gut microbiome, and take control of your autoimmune condition within 3 months. Now, can you eat flare-free 3 times a day for 3 months and still have inflammation, joint pain, and symptoms of your condition? Absolutely. There's a lot that goes into the onset of an autoimmune condition, and therefore there's a lot that goes into managing it. Food is just one piece of the puzzle. But in terms of doing flare-free math, what we're talking about here today, I just don't think that this concept is going to work for you if you're brand new to eating flare-free and you're still eating gluten here and there. Gluten is definitely the one thing that I eat the least because it's just so easy to avoid these days, and because I know gluten is a huge trigger for me. At the beginning of my healing journey in 2015, once I officially went gluten-free, the migraines and eczema that I had dealt with for years completely went away. And trust me, I was very hesitant to go gluten-free. It was the last thing I removed from my diet because I was like, people have been eating this way for thousands of years. There's no way that gluten is a problem for me. So I initially started by removing sugar because that was easy for me. And then I started only eating goat's milk and sheep's milk dairy. Then I removed gluten. And at first I was still drinking beer because I had no idea that beer was made from wheat. Listen, you don't know what you don't know, okay? But you can't unlearn what you learn. So there you go. You can't be gluten-free and you can't live flare-free if you're still drinking beer. I know, I'm sorry, that's a hard pill to swallow, but it is true. And listen, guys, there are great gluten-free beers out on the market you can find at Whole Foods. I'm not sure where else you can get it. I've only seen it at Whole Foods. Actually, Turnip Truck does sell a few, but if you love beer and you cannot give it up, that would be an option for you. All right, so is flare-free math something you have to do every day? Ideally, no. Once you get past that initial 3 to 6 month period and you've tampered down your inflammation, you've improved your gut microbiome, and you've taken control of your autoimmune condition, you want to aim to eat 80 to 90% flare-free at home and then do flare-free math that other 10 to 20% of the time. So this is something you'll do when you're traveling, if you're out of town, on vacation, or eating outside of the home. Whether it's grabbing something quick on the way to, your next appointment or in the middle of a busy day, or if you're going out to dinner with your partner. Okay, so how do you do flare-free math? All right, I'm going to get into more detail of all of this inside my flagship course, which I'm creating right now, complete with like a point system that you can use for folks that love numbers and need a structured outline to follow. But in a nutshell, the longer you eat away from home, for example, you're at the beach for a week, the more you have to eat flare-free each day. If you're just going out for a date night with your partner, you'll have more wiggle room to indulge because you'll be able to prepare your immune system the night before and nourish your immune system in the days after. So for the sake of this podcast, let's just pretend we're out of town for the weekend, okay? I like to start with drinks because that's usually the first thing we have every day and the first thing we order at a restaurant, right? But before we do that, we have to consider some of the factors that we may have to take into consideration first. Like, will there be any meals that I have to eat today that I'll have absolutely zero control over? For example, maybe you're visiting family out of town and your grandma's making her famous chicken pot pie for lunch or something. So you'll want to take into account that you won't be able to say no to grandma when it comes to that chicken pot pie. Okay, then you're going to have to take into account what your favorite meal of the day is or whatever other plans you have, right? So like I pulled you guys on Instagram and dinner was the winner. So we'll use that as an example today because in general, whatever your favorite meal of the day is probably going to be the meal that you indulge in the most. Or say, for example, wherever you have reservations at. If you're just for lunch going to grab Jimmy John's, that's not really going to be an indulgent. But if you have reservations for the seafood restaurant in town, that's the meal that you're going to really indulge in and enjoy. Okay, so say you're going to the seafood restaurant and it's known for its cocktails and you love a really nice crab cocktail. So you're going to indulge in cocktails at dinner. You can start there and then work backwards. So let's take that scenario as an example. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to have for breakfast. Okay, so I know I'm going to have 2 or 3 really nice cocktails at the restaurant, and I'm not sure if they're going to be sugar-free, so I'm going to start with something flare-free first thing in the morning for my beverage. So something like black tea, black coffee, sparkling water, mineral water, lemon water, anything that's gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy-free. because I don't want to be in the negative before I even get to grandma's house and then have to eat her famous chicken pot pie, which is going to put me further into the negative and cut into the points that I'll have to spend on cocktails at my favorite restaurant for dinner that night. So what am I going to choose for breakfast? Since I know I'm going to have my favorite meal of the day at one of my favorite restaurants, I'm going to have my favorite cocktail, I'm going to choose a flare-free breakfast. So something at the hotel breakfast bar that might be like scrambled eggs, breakfast sausage, and roasted potatoes. Simple, easy, satisfying hot breakfast. No brainer. All right, now it's time for lunch at grandma's house. Again, I'm going to start with drinks. Even though grandma is presenting me with her, best homemade sweet tea and lemonade, and she's already offered it to me twice, I am going to politely choose the water instead because I haven't had grandma's pot pie in a few years and I'm not sure how it's going to react with my immune system today, right? So I don't want to have to be the only person at dinner eating just salad or whatever. So I'm going to indulge in the pot pie and I'm going to skip the sweet tea, the lemonade, the pimento cheese, the crackers, the biscuits, whatever else she puts out as an appetizer in the beginning. And then I'm going to make sure to grab a big heaping side of whatever vegetable she serves with the pot pie, and I'm going to enjoy that pot pie. All right, so now we've made it all the way to dinner. We're feeling good. We've only had a handful of our trigger foods today, and I really want to indulge in this meal that I've been looking forward to all day. So right off the bat, I'm going to order my favorite cocktail. And look, they have a cocktail that has honey simple syrup instead of regular sugar maple syrup. So I am super stoked. This leaves me with a little bit of wiggle room so that I can order maybe a dessert or an entree off the menu that has maybe dairy or something else in it. So to start off, I'm going to get the salad, but without croutons or cheese, and or maybe like a vegetable appetizer or a protein-rich appetizer, something that's gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy free, because there's a delicious entree on the menu that has mashed potatoes, and I know it's going to have tons of butter and dairy, and mashed potatoes are my favorite thing. That sounds really great, and I want to get that entree. But before I decide for sure on the entree, I'm going to look at the dessert menu to see if there's anything gluten-free on the menu that sounds really good, because if so, then I might get an entree that doesn't have dairy. I might get a flare-free entree and get dessert instead. All right, there's nothing on the dessert menu that looks good to me, so I'm just going to stick with my gut instinct, get the steak and potatoes. I'm gonna get another cocktail while I'm at it. And at this point, I realize I'm making a mental note that none of the meat or vegetables I've had today have been organic or pasture raised. And since I'm eating out all day because I'm not at home and grandma doesn't know anything about flare free, all of the cooking oil I've had today has been vegetable oil, canola oil, those inflammatory toxic nut and seed oils that can cause an inflammatory response. So I decided to skip on dessert and have my final cocktail, indulge in my steak and potatoes, and that's it. So that's how we do flare-free math. So quickly, just to recap, breakfast was entirely gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy-free to the best of my knowledge. There's no telling what was in those breakfast sausages or potatoes because they didn't look, handmade. All right, lunch had some gluten, some dairy, some corn, and some sugar, but I passed on the sugary drinks and I had a vegetable side with my pot pie. And then for dinner, I had alcohol and dairy, and that was it. And I did have a wonderful salad or vegetable side to start with. So pretty good, I would say, for a day of eating out while traveling. Now, keeping in mind that all of the meals did have those inflammatory cooking oils, and none of the meat was anti-inflammatory. No pastured meats, no organic produce. But that's it. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you want to see the full transcript of today's podcast, complete with some downloadable graphics that you can keep on your phone or screenshot on your phone to help you do flare-free math, visit my blog at cheflaurarodriguez.com. And guys, if you're ready to get off the roller coaster ride of autoimmune flare-ups, take control of your autoimmune condition without changing what you eat. Check out the services I offer on my website, including the Flare Free Cooking Academy, which is my monthly membership subscription that teaches you to use anti-inflammatory food as medicine through monthly seasonal meal plans, virtual cooking classes, and one-on-one coaching sessions. Plus, there's a private online community there with warriors just like you, and trust me guys, the recipes are amazing and it's a lot of fun. So thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Edible RX, the podcast that teaches you to use food as medicine. I'm Laura Rodriguez and I'm signing off for the day, guys. So until next time, eat your damn vegetables. Bye!